This is our Forex blog for November 28th, 2011. And like most days, we really want to buy the strongest currencies versus the weak and sell the weakest ones versus the strong. You can see the real-time strength and weakness of each currency compared to all the other ones. And our FX Trend Pro tool uses 5 of our different statistical trend tools, comparing each one to every other one. 3 of them measure the direction. Is the dollar going up or down? What percentage of dollar pairs are going up and down? The other 2 measure short-term, bar by bar intensity, statistical intensity. How far did this bar move? And these are using 5-minute intervals, but you can change that if you want. So in other words, how far did all the dollar pairs move against all the other pairs this 5 minutes versus the past 20-day average for this time of the day? And then we also use one intermediate time frame trend, which is a little bit slower in switching. It also shows the intensity. So anytime a market hits the 80 level with red, like for instance at 315 or so right here, it's extremely weak. 80, 90, maybe even 100% of dollar pairs are going down, and they're doing so with an incredible intensity. This kind of intensity is likely to continue. Underneath that, we have the daily, weekly, and monthly trend. Preferably, if you have extreme weakness, you want weakness on the daily trend, weekly trend, and monthly trend. But if the weekly and monthly trend are up, like in this case, then it's usually safe to assume you're only going to get anywhere from a half an hour, maybe to 2 hours max of weakness before some strength comes back in. This one actually lasted almost 3 hours. It had a half-hour strength, half-hour weakness, an hour pretty intense strength, and then the weakness continued. In other words, the yen was a much better, higher odds trade when it had weakness today, because the weekly trend on this one was also down. It actually was down, shifted down on Sunday. So this one has the daily trend down, the weekly trend down, and the real-time trend down. So you want to buy, or I should say sell the yen versus one of the stronger ones. The euro is pretty much strong on all time frames until about 6. The Swiss is strong, but all the time frames are down. The Australian is strong. The weekly trend shifted up. The daily trend strong. So the Australian yen is a very high probability one to be buying. So let's bring up the Australian yen. First of all, this was trending up. It gapped up that day, shifting the weekly trend up, and it's been going up all day long. We have 2 basic methods of getting into trends. One is a multi-hour sideways rectangle pattern, like you can see right here. It broke out, you get in, it barely went up 25 pips. You might have made anywhere from 5 to 15 of those 25 pips. Then it pulled back and went sideways again. You can see the statistical strength on the way up is way more than the down waves. And that's one way of gauging whether the trend is going to continue. Is the up move, double or 1/3 more than the down move? Is this directional move in the direction of the daily and weekly trend? If so, that trend's likely to continue. You want to keep, getting back in. Here it has a nice little wedge pattern on the chart. And the second trade is the one that took off. It broke out right around 76.60 right here, at 55 actually. And our trailing stop got you out all the way up here at 14. You made about 50 or so pips. Now here we have a 3 and 4 hour counter trend signal, which most of the time is the end of the move. And so at that point in any higher move, you can really aggressively do counter trend trades. I like to draw my fibs on there, and I would be short. I probably would have shorted here, lost 10 pips, shorted here, maybe made 10 pips, shorted here to double top, and made about 30 on that one. So, 30 minus the 10, that's 20 pips. You're trading with the trend until you start seeing these signals. And if you see one of these signals, I have it set up to show the 3-hour bars trend reversal, and then a little bit later the 4-hour bar one shows up. Usually the 4-hour bar one is the end of the move. If this makes another move up now, it's really going to probably be the end of the move. But you can see by looking at the chart after about 5:30, extreme strength, no weakness, extreme strength, no weakness, extreme strength, no weakness. Until you get signs that the extreme strength is over, like right here, it was extremely strong. It's pretty aggressive counter trend trade, and that's why you wouldn't have made that much on there. But the double top up here, when you had half the strength of before, this is really how trends tend to end, like this. Another one that was strong on all time frames, not incredibly strong, just mildly strong. The daily, weekly, monthly trends just shifted up today. As you can see, we scroll back here, on the 25th, it was in a slight downtrend on the weekly. The CAD's strong, the weak yen, you want to basically buy the CAD yen. And you can see this one continued up all day too. And you hit the plus button to zoom in on this. 3 o'clock is usually when the beginning of the trends happens. It's usually dead from midnight to 3. You have a multi-hour sideways range right here. Here's the previous week's high, last week's high. And so when it broke above there, it's very bullish, and it just keeps going and going. Usually our upper white containment band is the end of the move, and you can see it was almost to the pip. And as you start buying these, normally you want to draw your fibs on each swing, and most of the time the fib targets are going to be where the market stalls. You can see it stalled right around the first one, hit the second one, went a few pips above it, not much, 9 pips above it, and then came back. And it also hit our upper containment band. But again, extreme strength on the up moves, virtually no weakness at all. The daily trend's up, the weekly trend's up, and even the monthly trend shifted up around 9. But this trend's kind of over now. But if it gets a deep pullback, you might want to buy the hourly moving average later tonight or tomorrow. This trend's likely to try to make at least one more wave up. If it breaks these highs, then the trend can continue. Now, the New Zealand also was strong today, and its weekly trend shifted up. It has a pretty intense monthly trend, though, so you got to be somewhat concerned when you have super strong trend like that. In fact, it's the weakest of all the trends on the monthly basis. But you can take scalps in the New Zealand yen and trade it. And if you wanted to do one, once you see this counter trend signal with some counter trend trades, like you draw your fibs on here, you go short right here. It went sideways for an hour and a half, so you get out of your trade with a small win. Came up to the 1.618 fib target up here and sell it around 15. Notice it's pulled back about 30 pips, because this is extremely weak on the monthly basis, so it's safer to do counter trend trades at the high versus the Australian yen or the CAD yen. It's all relative strength. When one currency's the weakest on any time frame, you can usually take advantage of that and profit from it.